Thank you so much for joining us on The Insight tonight. My name is Eugene Kwach, and of course, this is The Insight again. 2144 is our SMS line, and of course, here we get to delve deeply into critical issues that, of course, concern you. Well, tonight we delve again into a very critical and thought-provoking episode of The Insight tonight. We are going to delve deeply as we get to look at issues and some of the questions that have been raised on Kenya's leadership journey, focusing on President William Ruto's administration and the vision guiding the nation. As we continue to navigate through the complexities, of course, of governance, economy, and of course, some of the challenges that are actually pressing the nation. And of course, we do not do this alone. Turns actually the topic Kenya's leadership debate and Ruto's vision under the microscope. And of course, we do not do this alone, as I said earlier. And today we are honored to have a distinguished guest, a man who has been at the forefront of advocating for good governance and leadership in Kenya. He is Dr. Joseph Mugashia, the co-convener of the Concerned Citizens Movement of Kenya, a dedicated advocate for the rule of law, servant leadership, and citizens' direct involvement in the exercise of sovereign power. Dr. Mugashia's career spans across various sectors, including government, academia, international organizations, and politics. Of course, that which gives him quite a unique perspective on our nation's leadership crisis. Dr. Mugashi, it's quite much a pleasure to have you on board today. Thank you so much for joining The Insight.
Thank you, Coach.
Yes. And here we are here to discuss quite critical issues. And of course, our topic, as you have said, is we are asking where is Kenya headed? And the topic is leadership debate, where we, of course, are trying to put President William Ruto's leadership in a microscope, looking at it keenly. And of course, maybe through your perspective, as we begin this conversation, you could probably tell us that from where you sit, with the experience that you have, where do you think Kenya, the state of Kenya's leadership and governance is? If we begin.
First of all, thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Coach,
yes,
for having me here.
Yes.
Thank you very
welcome,
much.
Welcome, welcome.
I appreciate.
Yes.
Now, the state of Kenya's leadership and governance.
Yes. As you also highlight some of the most pressing issues that you think actually are as it stands.
Thank you. The country right now is undergoing a very difficult time. A time when we are seeing, unfortunately, I have to start with this,
Yes.
a complete failure of leadership.
Okay.
Because we are seeing a nation where the institutions that govern our country
Yes.
are being misgoverned,
Yes.
or governed very badly.
Yes.
We start off with presidency, because it is the apex
Yes.
of the country's leadership. We are seeing a presidency where nobody any longer trusts what the president tells us. We are seeing a lot of lies. And it is unfortunate, because we believe that when a president speaks, we should all believe it without even going to check it out. But nowadays, in the last 2 years,
Yes.
Whenever the president speaks, we have to go and check whether what he has said is true or false.
Thank you so much.
That is very unfortunate.
Yes.
Second, we are seeing the failure of institutions. And the one that is most pressing is security. Security for citizens. We are seeing a situation where the country is being run by goons. People are being abducted. People are getting killed. People are being intimidated. And what we get from our chief investigation agency, that is a DCI, is a confirmation that it is not the police which did the abductions.
Okay.
We are not supposed to know who did not do.
Okay.
The DCI is supposed to tell us who is doing what.
Okay. Okay.
Then we have the other institutions that give public service, like hospitals. That's the Ministry of Health. We have Ministry of Agriculture. Currently, there is a debate on vaccination of cattle. The president said we are going to vaccinate 20 million head of cattle and 50 million sheep and goats. and then it becomes a big deal. The question is, this is work and pronouncements that are supposed to be made by the director of veterinary services.
Okay.
Now it is coming from the president.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You have mentioned some very critical issues, actually. And one of them that you've highlighted, actually, is that, and of course you've said it in so many words, that Kenya is in a crisis, and the crisis is on leadership and governance crisis. Let us begin from there. That from your perspective, in your perspective, where did we reach there? What is the turning point until we have now reached this point of leadership crisis in a bit?
Now, our leadership and governance crisis is historical.
Okay.
We started off from the first president.
Yes.
And the first president should have unified the nation.
Yes.
But unfortunately, he never unified the nation.
Okay.
Remember, we had just come from the colonialists. Then we had the second president who came and completely divided the nation. Whatever little unity that the first president had done, it was completely destroyed. And then we had the third president, that is Mwai Kibaki. He came back and unified the country, but then we went into democracy where leaders misunderstood democracy. And again, we had this unity leading to the 2007 post-election violence.
Okay.
Now, we had President Uhuru Kenyatta. He came and tried his bit. And then now we have President Ruto. President Ruto came in and gave a lot of promises and on leadership and governance, and how it was going to be done, focused on the people who are earning little, that what we call the poor people. I hate calling them poor people because they are not poor. It is only their resources which are mismanaged. And once he came in, it turned out that everything he is telling the people were lies. So we expected him to come in, unify the nation, and then rebuild the economy. But then what has happened is that he has come in. We are seeing a lot of corruption is even higher than it was in the last regime. And then we are having now the insecurity and lack of safety for citizens. So we have got it completely wrong. And the president has moved away. The cause of all this is that he does not use the rule of law. He needs, and I've said this on several occasions, he needs to use what we call the governance manual. That is the constitution, the laws of Kenya, and government policy. Now, because of dropping all that and making a lot of illegal decisions, a lot of lies, then we have ended up with the country not trusting the president. And again, because of other decisions like the Finance Bill 2024, which was against the people, the president has ended up losing legitimacy of the people. And it is very difficult to govern a country when you don't have the people's legitimacy. So the president has lost the legitimacy of the people.
You've also mentioned quite critical issues there, and one of them being the president losing legitimacy, which I want us to delve into, but I want us to talk about something before we talk about, that is 22 years ago. Of course, when Kenyans were actually filled with hope as they ushered in the new president, Mwai Kibaki, when he became the president, that is in 2002. And actually during that time, there were a lot of reports that Kenyans were the most hopeful during that time. They were hopeful for the future. First to the 2022 election. So what I would love you maybe tell us is, when you juxtaposition the 2002 election, how Kenyans felt, and also the 2022 elections, how Kenyans felt, and right now how Kenyans are actually feeling. Maybe you could tell us a bit the difference, and going forward, what do we even expect?
That is very interesting, because in the 2002 elections, Kenyans had reached a point again where President Moi, the previous president, had lost legitimacy of the people. And fortunately for the country, That is a time when Moi was running his last term according to the constitution. And therefore, he had to get out.
Yes.
So basically, we didn't remove Moi.
Yes.
He was removed by the constitution because his term ended.
Yeah, sure.
And then we got President Kibaki, who came in with promises to revitalize the economy, that is, revive the economy, and also to stick to the rule of law. And when he came in, before he came in, he had gained the trust of the people as the best candidate to revive the country. That time, I remember Thika Road, for instance, going to from Nairobi to Thika, we used to use up to 6 hours because the road was completely finished, messed up. By the time Kibaki was leaving, we had Thika Superhighway.
Yes.
So when people trusted Kibaki,
Yes.
they were extremely hopeful with him. And they could get that from how he was doing his campaign and the promises he was giving, plus his track record as a finance minister and a vice president.
Yes.
So people were extremely hopeful. And Kibaki did not disappoint.
Yes.
He came in despite the struggles of the opposition. He was able to deliver the country to a revival of the economy and a people who could do their businesses with safety and security guaranteed by the state. Then we came to 2022. When we were coming to 2022,
Yes.
people we had two main candidates.
Yes.
That is Raila Odinga
Yes.
and William Ruto.
Yes.
And there was a serious tug of war between the two. People rejected Raila
Yes.
based on their revolt against the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
And they were very hopeful about President Ruto. So it's more or less like 2002 that people were hopeful that President Ruto would come in, enhance the economy, and also stick to the rule of law. And they said exactly that.
Yes.
But today, coming to, after 2 years plus as the head of state, people have completely lost legitimacy of the president. And we are back to far below where we were in 2001, 2002.
There's a lot of questions, actually.
Yeah.
Someone will maybe even ask, are we headed somewhere? Maybe is there still hope? But before we answer that critical question, because we can't answer it in one statement, then we also delve into another critical issue, and that is on the rule of law, which is under threat. And of course, you've talked so much about some of these issues. You've spoken about the importance of actually restoring the rule of law in Kenya. And when we look at this current administration, do you think it's actually upholding, or even is it weakening? And going forward, do you think that the legitimacy may come back? Because mentioned about abductions. You've mentioned a lot of actually other things, and there's a lot. There've been uproar actually that Kenya as a nation has actually been so good at abduction to the extent that even the Uganda can now use them to even abduct some of their citizens. So from where you sit, maybe you could talk a bit about that. Now, the rule of law itself. Are we headed somewhere that you think that going forward, things are going to be better?
Thank you. Unfortunately, if we continue with the direction we are going further and further away from the rule of law. Now, I want to look at a few cases. One is, let's go back to the finance bill, 2024. You recall that Kenyans said very clearly that they did not want the bill and that the bill was oppressive to the citizens.
Yes.
And how the government responded is by killing Kenyans, abducting Kenyans, and even detaining them beyond the 24 hours that is provided for in law. Now, that has continued, as I mentioned earlier. We come into the issue of making decisions regarding state investments. We had the Adani project, whereby the government decided that they were giving their contract to somebody who is going to, that is Adani, who was going to run the airport for 30 years and then get 18 years, perpetual benefit of 18% of the revenue forever. Now, this was never passed by Parliament, and it was never passed by the people. And you know very well that the law requires that public participation be done on some of these issues that affect the people and the nation. Then we have a situation where, again, the president makes all decisions. That is what we are seeing. I probably would ask you, when is the last time you heard the Director of Education speaking? Okay. You have not heard him speaking. Yet, that is the technical advisor to the president on matters of education.
Okay. Thank you so much. You've actually mentioned heavy issues that are quite weighty. But again, as we talk about the rule of law, maybe someone will ask that potentially, if we do not restore the rule of law, as you mentioned that we do not have the rule of law, if this government do not actually work to restore this particular principle, what could be the end, what could be the consequences actually if it's not restored? That is one. But again, going on, I will also need to ask you now, because I understand that you are a very active citizen also, and you are also a convener of
Concerned Citizens.
Yes, which I wish you to talk about. Now that you're also a convener of that, maybe you working hard as an active citizen, you could potentially tell us now, what could now the citizens do to even make the government accountable? Now that we've experienced now the Gen Z movement and such things going on, do we foresee such in the future so that we can hold this government accountable for the same?
Okay, I'll start with the question of where would we head if we don't get back to the rule of law.
Yes, yes.
Nations which have gone this way, they have ended up with very serious civil strife. And I've been in nations which have collapsed. I was in Iraq for 6.5 years during the reign of Saddam Hussein. And we all know that Iraq collapsed. And up to date, they have never got a stable government. I visited Syria, which is another country which had a similar situation. And again, you know, Syria is in a crisis for the last many years. I was also in Nigeria, where again, it was the beginning of Boko Haram, which was people complaining that the government was not taking care of the people. And it ended up being a very serious, it never broke down, but the government had to act very decisively and get back to the rule of law so that they could restore the country. So when you see a country where you progressively move towards more serious violation of the law by the government, which is supposed to uphold the rule of law, then the next step is that citizens decide to take the law into their own hands. And when everybody is claiming they are implementing the law, the only thing that you get is chaos. And therefore, you get a complete breakdown where you get into either civil war or civil strife, very serious civil strife, and you cannot get economic development when when that is happening. Some of the indicators of this kind of breakdown is when you start seeing people fighting their own leaders. Like now we are seeing in the country, wherever the president goes, everybody is calling him Wizi. You know, you ask yourself, how would the people then trust somebody they call a thief? They cannot. And the president should be very worried about those happenings. The other thing is that you saw the other day in Mulolongo, people parading the area MCA through pools of water and telling him, you say the roads are good, please walk. This is how we are walking here. Again, that is not a good indicator. You have seen people chasing policemen. Those are not good indicators. And I would like to tell the president and the people of Kenya that if we continue on that route, we are definitely going to destroy this country. And it is important we go back to the rule of law.
Okay.
The president is the one who swore to guarantee the safety and security of Kenyans and to uphold the rule of law. He must be the first one to show us the way.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, you asked about what citizens can do.
Yes.
The Constitution says very clearly that sovereign power belongs to the people, and they can exercise it directly or indirectly. Now, what I would say is, if the president cannot govern the country, then he should resign. He should leave for the people to choose another president who will run the country. If he cannot implement the rule of law, then Parliament should impeach him. But we know our Parliament has been captured by the executive, and it would be very difficult to imagine that they would wake up one day and impeach the president. But then we go back now to the sovereign power of the people. The people should bear pressure on Parliament to do an impeachment if the president cannot and will not implement the rule of law.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, actually. You've mentioned quite a very critical issue, and there has actually started debate, and that is on the impeachment. Now that we had the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua being impeached, and there was this say that Kufa Makanga, Kufa Dereva, that all of them should actually be impeached. But we're going to delve into that topic a bit. I want us to talk about something else that actually you have stood for quite a while in your leadership and governance, and that is particularly on servant leadership, and which talks majorly of humility amongst leaders. And if you look at this government, it has been accused of many things, and one of them is not being humble.
Yeah.
Even when it talks to the people, the way they convey the messages, the way the leaders talk to the people, even prior to the bill, Finance Bill 2024 actually, which led to the Gen Z revolution, if I can say. So when I talk about servant leadership, and which prioritizes actually humility and service to the people, does President Ruto's leadership style reflect this servant leadership? And perhaps does this government has a room for improvement? If not, as people have described it as a very arrogant government.
Let me start by saying that any government that cares about its people has room for improvement.
Yes.
And the president can restore, legitimacy with the people if he makes a decision he wants to do it. Excuse me. Now, the first thing is that, this country is not short of resources. But our resources, particularly finances, public finances, are being lost through corruption, through wastage, and through a lack of service, whereby the people who are supposed to collect taxes, they will go out there and get the money for themselves, put in the pocket. It's part of corruption, but again, it is failure of collection of revenue. Now, the other thing is that there is a lot of wastage where the government is carrying out projects, very, very heavy investment projects, and yet it never completes those projects.
Okay.
Like roads, like dams, and the rest. The president can regain legitimacy by simply getting back to the rule of law and providing services to the people, whereby if it's health services, you go to hospitals, you are treated by doctors, and you get your medicine, and you get all your treatment like surgeries, and you get healed, and you go home. But when we have a government where they tell you they are providing services, you go there to a hospital, and then the doctor just gives you a prescription after waiting for the doctor for the whole day or 2 days. That is not service. And there is no sensitivity to the people who employs the civil servants and the president himself. So the president can actually make a decision that he wants to regain legitimacy of the people. Whether he will do that or not,
Okay.
it's for him to decide. Yes.
Thank you so much. We're taking a quick short break, actually, but we'll be right back. Of course, we still continue with this conversation here on The Insight. To the Boanda before is our SMS line at Quach Official at GBS TV Africa. That is where you get to find us and, of course, converse with us. The conversation still continues. Of course, we have here Dr. Joseph highlighting greatly on matters governance and leadership as we get to critically look at the leadership style of President Ruto and, of course, his government. Thank you so much, and we're coming back in a jiffy.
Welcome to the 254 Trivia Game Show, where every second counts and the stakes are sky high.
Get ready for jaw-dropping challenges, mind-bending questions, and unbeatable fun.
Who will rise to the top and claim the ultimate prize?
Tune into GBS TV and let the games begin.
Don't miss out. This is the 254 Trivia Game Show. Good luck.
Today, we are going to have the Scouts Corner.
Drop. Tease. Let. Tease. Let.
And I'm joined with two wonderful schools. Firstly, we have the Kings and Queens Academy. And we have the SEK St. Elizabeth Academy. Hi. We'll be having different segments. And the first segment, we'll have the Bible knowledge.
Now, Maureen's father works in a place where believers were first called Christians. The place is called?
The third segment, we'll have the spelling bee.
We have 30 seconds to give your answer. Are you ready? Yes. Amazing.
NINTY 90. CHOCOLATE chocolate.
Meet us every day on Saturday, same place, same time.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to The Insight tonight. We continue with this conversation, and of course we still have here Dr. Joseph Mugashia as we continue with this conversation. 211 is our SMS line, and of course at Quach Official at GBS TV Africa. Dr. Mugashia,
Yeah.
we're continuing this conversation on Kenya's leadership debate and of course Ruto's vision under the microscope. You mentioned as we began the conversation about Ruto's vision, and hence he came up with bottom-up economic approach, the model actually, the economic model, which had started a lot of conversations and uproar prior to the 2022 elections, which I know you understand quite bottom-up. People asking, what is bottom-up? Is it bottom-up? And there's a lot of conversation around that. Now that the president is sitting, President William Ruto, and of course you mentioned that this model was actually meant to uplift the common man, the hoi polloi, to maybe get to a better position. Now that is economically. Assessing this particular economic model from where you sit thus far, do you think it has actually achieved what was envisioned by the people? And if so, has the bottom-up economic model really worked? That is the big question.
First of all, I haven't seen, I'm not an economist.
Okay.
Let me make that disclaimer.
Yes.
But I'm a businessman. And secondly,
Yes.
I'm educated. So I can understand issues when they are put forward.
And you live in this country.
And I live in this country.
Okay.
Now, I do not know of something called bottom-up economic model. What I knew from the start and what I believe is that this is a concept where he wanted to say that I want to empower the people down there to grow the economy. Now, if you compare that with what Kibaki did, trickle-down economics, investing up there and the proceeds trickling down, it was very successful. Now, the bottom-up has not worked because we have not seen empowerment of the people down there to build industries or to build businesses. We have heard of the Hustler Fund, which we have not seen any outputs. We have heard of a lot of, we have heard of, funds for the youth, but we haven't seen any results that you can talk, you can write about. So in my view, this concept of bottom-up has not worked.
Okay.
And it is unlikely to work because when you look at the models, it is very difficult to get a Mama Boga to own a supermarket and to employ 100 people. But it's very easy to get a supermarket owned by an investor in the, who is supported by a good economic environment to employ even 1,000 people. So we are experimenting with something that has not worked, and it's not likely to work. It's not going to work.
Okay.
Yes.
One of the issues actually that have been mentioned why the bottom-up economic model has actually not worked is because of corruption. And that, of course, as I quote the former deputy president, that is Rigathi Gachagua, which talks about there's a lot of ills within the government. And so let's just put it as corruption. And corruption has actually bedeviled the country for a very long time, since independence. And this being a very, something that has actually bedeviled us for quite long and has made even the hoi polloi, the common man, not benefit from the government as it is supposed to. Let me just ask you this. When you look at this current regime, the President, William Ruto, and his commitment to actually fighting corruption, and maybe some of the issues or the policies that have been introduced, and what has been done so far, do you think, or can you say that the government is actually committed to fighting corruption? And if not, what, if yes, then what is actually being done? Maybe if not, maybe you can tell us what should be done.
Okay. We got the first statement on how much we lose through corruption from the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, at 2 billion shillings a day. And the other day we had the same repeated by the current CS for Treasury, John Bandi. Then, even without going into the figures, when you look at the reports that we get, Adani is corruption. Chief is corruption. We hear that a system is costing 104 billion shillings, a health system. It doesn't work. It's not such a huge project.
Yes.
Now, the other thing is, whenever you look at the figures that we are getting, you find so many billions have gone into corruption. And those reports are there every day. And people like Professor Ogola, they have worked on some of the figures, and they have shown where this money gets lost. We have seen a governor being caught in London with almost 1 billion shillings, which he could not explain why it was there. So, and when you look at the government, you only see small people being said to have been arrested. But you never see these mega corruption culprits ever getting to be convicted. So, in my view, the government is not committed to fighting corruption, because almost all those people who are being cited for corruption are public officers.
Okay.
And yeah, so I do not believe that the government is fighting corruption.
Some of a critical group actually that is also supposed to hold the government into account, apart from just the common citizens, is also the opposition. And we've also had that debate for quite a while. What is really the opposition doing in this current regime? And perhaps let me just ask you that when you assess the role of the opposition in holding the government accountable, do you actually believe that the opposition is actually fulfilling this role effectively as they're supposed to?
We don't have an opposition in Kenya. because what happens, and we all know, ODM, Azimio, powered by ODM,
Okay.
was the was the chief opposition in the country. But today, you know that the head of Azimio, that's Raila Odinga, is in the government. And he's one of the people who came and told us that, oh, Adani is very good. In fact, he's very good for Kenya. So, and
But you
when
have
it is-
Kalonzo Musyoka and Eugene Wamalwa.
Kalonzo Musyoka and Eugene Wamalwa, they are trying to pick it up from where Raila was, and they have not been able to. They have not been able to do that.
Why?
And because they are still people who are under the shadow of Raila Odinga in terms of feeling and the way people view them. So and again, when you look at this team, it is talking more about removing Ruto rather than getting the government to perform. So for them, that opposition is not working.
Okay.
But the main opposition, which was Raila Odinga and ODM, is now fully with the government. And therefore, we do not expect them to check the government because you cannot check the government when you are in government. So Kenyans, we need to rethink about what our opposition is.
The president has said actually that there is a bad, evil, let's say evil spirits of opposing everything actually within the country. Some of the people that actually were opposing some of these initiatives the government is are starting, I've never even stepped maybe in the airport or so. He said that. But what the president says is that people need to actually assess things before they start opposing them. Do you think that to some extent Kenyans have opposed the initiatives from the government? Do you think that we've given the government too much time to prove itself? Or what do you think the balance is between? Is there that the government is really doing what is wrong? Or Kenyans have not given the president sufficient time, its government, to actually perform some of these things that the Kenyans expect them to do?
One of the things I want to say is that you don't need to have gone to the airport to know that your airport is being sold. All you need to know is that the law was not followed in issuing the contract.
Yes.
And secondly, the contract is not for the benefit of Kenyans. So I would not really want to talk about purpose or bad spirits when you're talking about governance. Governance is about doing the right things according to the law and doing the right things according to the needs of the people, which must also be done within the law. So the question of bad spirits does not come in. And one thing I tell Kenyans is we need to step a little bit back from religion and leave faith to what has to do with faith, what we cannot touch and see. But when it comes to governance, when it comes to development, go for the tangibles. Be able to say, if we were building a 10-story building here with this standard, you go there and you see it, that it is there. But don't tell me that I'm criticizing because I have bad spirit. The president should simply deliver to the people, and he's not even supposed to be telling us what he has done. We are supposed to be feeling it. President, the work of government is supposed to be felt. If you go to the US, you feel the government. You don't see it. And they don't tell you we have made this road. You walk on the road, you drive on the road. It is that simple. So it doesn't matter how much we are told the economy is growing. As long as I don't have money in the pocket, as long as citizens don't have food to eat, they don't have money in the pocket, you can sing, but they will never believe you. And it is not right.
Okay.
So the president needs to go back and give Kenyans tangibles.
Yes.
Not stories.
Thank you. Wow. You've mentioned a lot of things. And one of them, actually, I want to take you back, is on the impeachment of the president. Because you mentioned about, and of course, this is a conversation that has always also been there on the public space on impeaching the president. And of course, as we had the deputy president being impeached. And you are actually on record stating that the president should actually be impeached or resign himself. Do you still, as we begin, do you still hold that view?
Yes.
And if yes or not, maybe why or why not?
Now, the president, first of all,
Yes.
I hold that position.
Yes.
I still believe that if a president or if the president cannot deliver to the people, then he should do the honorable thing and resign, give the job back to the people, and we, the people, will elect another president. And the constitution is very clear that if you resign, the deputy president becomes the president. Secondly, if we are continuing on the same route and the president cannot resign, then we should impeach him.
Okay.
And it is parliament that we have given the responsibility of impeaching the president.
Yes.
Now, we have seen the parliament is captured.
Yes.
And at Concerned Citizens Movement, we have looked at this situation.
Why do you say the parliament is captured?
The parliament is captured because it will normally push the agenda of the president.
Okay.
And we have seen it.
Okay.
We have also seen allegations from the members of parliament
Yes.
of how they are given money to make decisions. Now, the thing that came very straight that parliament is captured was the finance bill 2024. That finance bill, people told parliament that the bill was not good and they should not pass it the way it was. The president prevailed over them to pass the bill. They passed the bill, but people put more pressure even on the president. And when it arrived at the president's desk, the president declined to sign it and returned it to parliament.
Okay.
What happened is that parliamentarians clapped for the president. That never happens. If you give me a document and I slap you back with it, how do you clap for me? That tells you that these people are actually only singing the tune of the president.
Okay.
The second one is Adani. We have seen Adani was there, and we had a lot of support for Adani. Some people castigated, but at the end of the day, even when the president was cancelling Adani, his CS was supporting Adani and was supporting Adani in parliament. So they are not making decisions that are independent. And then finally, we have a situation where the executive is carrying out atrocities on the people. We saw the death of the killing of the Gen Zs. We have people still missing, and nobody tells us where they are. Yet, Parliament cannot ask the questions, where are these people, and who made them disappear?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, there's a question on, you've just talked about impeachment, and we know that the people who should actually impeach the president, that is actually mandated, is the parliament, which
Correct.
according to you is captured. Well, when this parliament is captured, and of course as we understand that the power that the parliament has been donated by the people, who actually are the sovereign here. What then can the masses do in this, so to ensure that the parliament is actually sanitized to do what they're supposed to do, and that is act on behalf of the people?
Okay. First, we change the choice of words.
Okay.
That the power, the sovereign power, is not donated to the people, to parliament. It is delegated.
Okay.
When you donate, you can't take back.
Okay.
When you delegate,
Okay.
you can de-delegate and take the power back.
Okay.
So we the people have delegated the power of impeachment to parliament. That is oversight. If the president does not rectify, then impeachment. Now, that means since the power is delegated, we can actually get it back. That is point number one. Secondly, and in that case, we would have to amend the constitution so that we give the people the power to recall a sitting president. And that is what Concerned Citizens Movement, that is what we are proposing, an amendment of the constitution, so that people get to exercise sovereign power over the president and other leaders directly by executing recall.
Wow.
Now, that is something that we are working on.
Okay.
We have drafted the bill and we'll be presenting it to the people.
Okay.
Now, the second thing, We are the people.
On a bill, let me just
Yes.
cut you short. On
Yeah.
the specific bill actually that you have,
Yeah.
that you want to present to the people,
Yes.
do you think the people are going to support you?
We believe the people will support us.
Yes.
And we actually appeal to all Kenyans
Yes.
to support this bill. Because once we have done it, if we amend the constitution, then no president will ever be able to capture parliament.
Okay. There's also another conversation, kindly, just before you continue.
Yeah.
Just cut you short on the same thing, the issue that you're talking about on that particular bill. And the Deputy President, Kithure Kindiki, actually sparked a conversation on public interest and, of course, national interest, that sometimes public interest may actually hinder national interest. So the debate between the two, do you think that when the people have now been, this the power that they've actually delegated to now Parliament, if they can actually exercise it directly by even recalling a president, do you think that sometimes the public may act not for the interest of the nation, but what do you think about public interest and national interest to this extent, particularly when you talk about them recalling a president who has actually been elected democratically by the people?
Now, excuse me. I do understand that statement. However, recalling a president and even impeaching a president
Yes.
is not something that you do on flimsy reasons.
Yes.
The standards, the threshold for doing that is very high.
Okay.
And one of them is any constitutional violation. And if we look at today, we have had no IEBC for a long time, actually, since the current president came in. What does that mean? It means that you have violated the rights of people, the right of people to be represented. There were wards which were supposed to do by elections. There are there were constituencies that are supposed to do by elections, because either the elections were nullified, or the sitting legislator died, or the sitting legislator was taken into government as a public servant. These people have not been represented because there is no sitting IEBC.
Okay. Just a quick one, Dr.
Yes.
If at all this was effective from independence, how many presidents do you think will have completed their terms?
I think one, we would be having more presidents than we have had.
Okay.
That is one.
Yes.
Because then they would have remained within the terms of the president.
Okay.
Now, and the elections would have been done properly.
Okay.
Secondly, as I said, the threshold
Yes.
for removal of a president
Okay.
is very high.
Okay.
You cannot just come in and say, because I'm a member of the public, I'm going to recall the president.
Okay.
The president is supposed to be recalled by
Okay.
1 million signatures
Yes.
if our amendment goes through. And for now, it is Parliament, and, that's a National Assembly and Parliament, and the impeachment has to go with 2/3
Yes.
of the members.
Okay.
So it is not cheap.
Understood.
Yes.
Understood. Let's talk about something actually that also has affected this government for a while, and that is on public trust. We understand that public trust is actually very important. It's imperative in effective leadership and governance of a nation. And from where we sit, this current regime, the Kenya Kwanza, has lost a bit of public trust from what we hear, what people say, and how things are actually happening. In your own understanding,
Yeah.
where do you think, or what do you think actually now President Ruto can do with his government to ensure that they get back the public trust, which seemingly they are losing?
Now, public trust gives the government predictability. If you are trusted by the public, you're doing the right things, then you are predictable government. Secondly, it gives you, once you get predictability,
Yes.
then you become a reliable government. That people can rely on you to make decisions, investment decisions, or any other decisions. And once that happens, then you become a stable government. Now, what the president needs to do in my opinion, is that, again, as I said, he has to go back to operating within the rule of law. We must stop seeing this insecurity that is propagated by our own security agents or people associated to our security agents or the so-called goons who are tolerated by our security service.
Okay.
Secondly, we must see the safeguarding of public funds or public resources.
Yes.
That is, we must, I mean, he must control corruption. He must work to control corruption. You cannot eradicate corruption, let me say that, because there will always be that person who will try. But controlling means when you are caught, you are in hot soup. You are going to be dealt with by the law.
Yes.
The other one is he must tell people the truth. He must do what he says he will do. If he knows he can't do it, he should not say it. He should not promise something he cannot deliver. In short, he must tell people the truth. He must stop telling lies. The other thing is he must allow the public service to operate. He must allow the managers below him to work. You know, starting from the CSs, you go to the PSs, you go to the directors. The directors are a completely almost eradicated species in our service. We don't hear about them, yet they are the technical advisors to the government. So he really have to go back to good governance and the rule of law.
Thank you so much. You've actually mentioned a lot of things. Actually, I wanted to ask you your advice to the president, and of course, that is just the advice actually that, of course, you'll give to the president.
Yeah.
But even as you give the parting shot, many people, many Kenyans actually are feeling quite disillusioned by the state of leadership in the country as it stands. From where you sit, with your experience in leadership and governance, maybe what you can tell Kenyans to pick from this conversation, what would you like Kenyans maybe to take away, very importantly, from this conversation, even as we wrap up?
Thank you. What Kenyans need to know is that, one, our country is in a crisis. It is in a leadership and governance crisis. That does not mean that our country cannot recover. That is first. Secondly, Kenyans need to understand that we are the people who employ our leaders, starting with the president, the MPs, everybody, including the civil service.
Yes.
So we must be able to oversight them and make them work for us, and listen to us and work for us. And the last thing is that Kenyans must understand that when people do not work for you and you have employed them, then you remove them from that employment. We all get employed and we know we lose our jobs. Gachagua lost his job as the deputy president because people said he was not working, right? So every other citizen, officer, including the president, if they cannot deliver, then we need to stop them from working, and that is impeaching the president, or he resigns, and we give the job to somebody else who will deliver to us. We are in a situation where we have been taken hostage by our own employees, the leaders we have given authority to lead us. We must come out of that bondage, and we must make the leaders understand that we are the ones who employ them. And it is possible to impeach the president.
Thank you. Thank you so
Kenyans
much.
should consider that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Of course, Dr. Mugashia. Dr. Mugashia was joining us for this broad conversation. He is actually a seasoned veterinary doctor, former government officer, university lecturer, international senior staff for the United Nations across Middle East and Africa. And beyond these professional achievements, he is actually a champion for servant leadership, citizen sovereignty and accountability. And as the core convener of the Concerned Citizens Movement of Kenya, Dr. Mugashia has dedicated his efforts advocating for the restoration of Kenya's governance principle. In addition to his advocacy, he has ventured into politics as former MP candidate for Kigumo and national presidential campaign coordinator for Mukisa Kitui in 2022. And of course, we tapped into his insights. And thank you so much also for joining us from wherever you are. This has been indeed a great conversation. Remember, the Insight is where we bring you critical conversation that matter to you every Friday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Well, this is GBS TV Africa. My name is Eugene Kwach, and of course, on behalf of everyone who has ensured that we have the success of this show tonight, we wish you a very good night. See you next Friday.